Hey, what is up, mortals? It is TC Crew here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 4 of season 1 of What If Deku Had Divine Dividing. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So we begin. Izuku Midoriya had hoped that there would be at least one familiar face within the group heading to his testing site. Someone like Itsuka so they could stretch together, or Chinatori so that they could have a chat. Stuff that might ease his nerves. But alas, the universe was not too kind to the boy, as the only familiar face he saw was the blue-haired teen that had scolded Chinatori. As Izuku began to stretch his legs, he momentarily considered approaching the taller teen. To simply explain what had happened this morning, and perhaps then he could help arrange a proper apology from him. However, upon looking at the stony and harsh expression the boy was giving off, the teen decided against it. This teen had already shown that he was easily triggered into thinking the worst about others around him. Odds were that if Izuku did walk up to him, the other teen would loudly chastise him. Maybe after the exams, when everyone wasn't as stressed, wait a moment. The pessimistical teen's legs had exhaust vents in them? Seeing them brought Izuku's mind to the Ida family and the turbo hero, Ingenium. Was this guy related to them or something? As the young Midoriya's mind began to spiral into his analysis mode on the possible Ida boy's quirk, the door to the testing area opened. For a moment, no one made a move, as they all stared at the empty city within.
Come on! What are you all standing around for? There are no countdowns in real life. The test already began!
With that, everyone began to run right into the city at top speed. Some, like maybe Ida boy, shot past the rest with amazing speed, leaving the rest of the group far behind. Then, there were people like Izuku, who, thanks to his intense workout regimen, managed to stay in front of the pack without feeling winded. It didn't take long before the first robotic villain was spotted. A one-pointer robot came out of a nearby alley up ahead, looking like it was ready to take down all the students by itself. Upon seeing it, there was a moment when Izuku felt fear touch his heart. After all, this was a machine built to test them, to fight them. But the holder of the Divine Dividing pushed down that fear the same way he did when he was jumping from rooftop to rooftop with Miss Kendo. As the teens behind him began screaming dibs on the metal foe, Izuku sped up to his max running speed, though he did not immediately activate Divine Dividing. Midoriya's eyes began to scan his target to find its weakness. While fighting a robot without one's quirk might be considered very foolish, the green-haired teen knew he needed to do this. Needed to confirm that, in case Divine Dividing didn't work on machines, he still stood a chance in this exam. That, as well as something a bit more personal. A part of him needed to know that if he had entered into this exam without any real power, be it a quirk or a sacred gear, that he still stood a chance at being a hero. By the time Izuku was right in front of his target, the green-haired teen had settled on his target. With all his honed reflexes, the teen bent his knees before leaping up into the air and curling himself into a ball as he began to spin around. Quickly gravity called him back to earth, the teen sticking out a leg as he fell and slammed it right into the neck of the machine. Upon contact, a cracking noise filled the air before the robot hit the ground with its lights dimming into nothingness. It was down. Izuku Midoriya had received his first point. However, there was no time to celebrate his victory. He had won nothing more than a single battle, while the war raged all around him. The other students knew that as they were already moving deeper into the city, as they looked for more robots to fight. So Izuku wasted no more time as he began to look for another robot to defeat. He didn't have to search for very long, as the tank-like three-pointer robot came crashing through a wall right in front of Izuku. Acting on instinct, the green-haired youth leaped back just as the machine turned to face him while firing several rubber bullets from his back. While Midoriya managed to avoid the majority of the attack, one of the projectiles grazed his leg with enough force that it ripped right through his pant leg while leaving a deep red mark across his skin. Letting out a hiss of pain, Izuku lunged over to the side to avoid getting hit again as his eyes scanned the machine. Sad thing was that this one didn't have such an obvious weakness as the first, and its body looked like it was made of much thicker metal. Perhaps with time, he could uncover the hidden weak spot, but time was the one thing he did not have in abundance at the moment.
"'Cause now is as good a time as any to see if this works."
With that thought, Izuku activated Divine Dividing. Instantly he felt the power in his left hand begin to pool, the blue gem forming for all the world to see. But then it vanished. No, wait, it moved. That power shot through his arm, into his shoulder, and then settled into his back. For a moment, Izuku was confused as what was happening to him. Then, from his back, sprouted 2 white wings, each one holding 4 feathers, made of bluish energy for a grand total of 8. Unable to help himself, Izuku stood there as he marveled at the change.
"What? What is this?"
The 3-pointer responded by firing at the target once more. Again, Izuku leaped to the side only to see that both his speed and leap had increased. Also, like he was flying. Well, he did have wings now.
Congratulations, partner. It seems like all your training has paid off. Your body is now capable of handling the first stage of Divine Dividing. Now you can make full use of your new abilities.
"New abilities?"
As Izuku spoke to Albion, he shot forward towards the 3-pointer to quickly make contact with it.
"Divide!"
Midoriya once more felt a surge similar to when he used Divine Dividing on Bakugo nearly a year ago. He could feel the power coursing through his being, the machine's strength and speed being added to his own. Only this time, it didn't feel as fleeting as the first time. With wide eyes and a rush moving through his systems, Izuku jumped onto the machine's back, where he then sent a downward kick right into the back of the 3-pointer's head. Like Midori had expected, this one was a bit tougher, as it needed a second kick before the head would break off from the rest of the body. And while this was going on, Albion spoke.
Yes, since you are a little preoccupied, I'll keep this simple. The wings on your back aren't just for show. Nay, the energy that you have stolen from your foes shall be spread throughout the feathers, and any excess energy will be released from the tips. Just think of it as storage that you can use to keep yourself stronger for longer, with a built-in run-off system. But be warned, if you drain too much energy with no way to release it, then you shall have to endure the strain that comes with it. These wings will also grant you flight.
Good to know."
Glancing round, Izuku found that he was alone. The street seemed utterly devoid of any of the foe villains. However, he could hear the sounds of crashing and explosions off in the distance. No doubt the others were racking up a good deal of points. If Izuku wanted to pass this exam, then he would need to hurry up. Bending his knees, the team prepared to take off into the sky at full speed without really thinking about it. This, sadly, proved to be a mistake, as Midoriya became nothing more than a green and blue blur rocketing through the air while screaming like a madman, his hands thrashing in front of him, while the world rushing past him, the building he passed blending together. He felt himself going up, down, swirling in the air so fast that he could vomit at any moment, and so much more. New fear swiftly came to life, knowing that if he didn't get control of this soon, he might meet his end by crashing into the street or into one of the mock buildings. Finally, with a Herculean effort, Izuku put all his focus into stopping. And it worked. The team stopped instantly with no whiplash. He hovered in the sky, panting while doing his best not to look down.
That was a stupid idea.
As Izuku panted each and every word, he realized that before he could do anything else, he would need to get the hang of flying. Not just so that he could continue the exam, but also so that he would not become a splat upon the ground. Since time was a factor, Midoriya knew he had to make this both quick as well as effective. After taking a breath, the teen leaned to the left to see what would happen. Thankfully, he did move in that direction. So Izuku decided to experiment a bit more as he leaned right, forward, and backward, finding himself moving in that direction. Okay, he could work with this. Now that Izuku had the basics down, the teen began to move downward towards the foe city below. A bit slower this time. His speed was more akin to a sprint than the super speed he had been going mere minutes ago. Yes, Midoriya knew that he was running out of time. However, he also knew that if he did anything like that again, then all he would accomplish would be wasting more time. Later he would begin to practice more with his wings, learning how to fly and how to fight with them. But for now, he had to focus on the test right in front of him. It didn't take long for Izuku to find more robots. 3 of them, 2 one-pointers and a single 2-pointer. Still in the sky, none of the metallic foes had noticed him. A factor that Izuku would capitalize on. Wasting not a single second, Izuku shot down towards the ground while looking like he was doing a flying kick, one aimed right for the center of the 2-pointer. The blow landed, the machine's parts flying all around before either of the other 2 machines could even turn around. Swiftly, Izuku shot towards one of the one-pointers to make contact. Divide! A smile appeared on the teen's face as his divine dividing took effect once more, the robot slowly turning to look at him, or rather, where he had been as Izuku was already above the 2 machines. Severing it completely, as the green-haired youth then spun around in the air so that his opposite heel would contact the robot's neck. Crack went the neck of his robotic enemy, its body slumping to the ground as Izuku managed to just barely grab hold of the severed limb before it hit the ground. The last one-pointer charged forward with his arm pulled back, yet Midoriya was faster. Gripping the metal arm with both hands, he swung it right into the midsection of the foe villain. A loud clang echoed through the air as metal embedded into metal while sparks began to fly. Not another second was wasted as Izuku kicked the makeshift weapon in deeper, the robot powering down and earning the teen another point. Upon realizing that all of his foes were down for the count, Izuku took off to look for more villains. Then, after a few more minutes, the ground began to shake.
This video is sponsored by ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN allows you to change your IP address, making it harder to track and securing your privacy. In addition to providing safe passage through the web, you can also expand the reach of your favorite streaming services like Disney+. If you are from the United States, you won't be able to watch any of the MCU and Sony Spider-Man movies, but by switching your location to Japan, you can access them whenever you want. Check out the link in the description to get 3 extra months when you purchase the 12-month subscription plan that costs $99.99 a year. This deal is for a limited time. And thanks to ExpressVPN for sponsoring this video. What's going on here?
That thought echoed through the young Midoriya's mind as he took to the sky, the ground shaking at an alarming rate. Then there were the students whose screams of horror occurred mere moments before the teen spotted them racing through the streets. It looked like they were scrambling to get away from something. Theories of what was going on flowed through Izuku's mind as easily as a river. Was it an earthquake, or some other natural disaster? Or was there a gas line underneath the city that ignited after one of the students used their quirks to destroy a robot? Maybe even someone's quirk was going out of control. Whatever the case, the airborne teen flew out into the middle of the street and looked at what the others were running from. What he saw caused his eyes to widen, while a feeling of utter insignificance overtook him. It was the zero pointer. The sight of it boggled the mind, nearly causing Midoriya's mind to crash and reboot. It was larger than life, as it peered down at the fleeing students from above the buildings with its giant metal head. Giant metal claws crashing into the buildings around it, breaking them apart with no effort at all as pieces fell to the earth below. How thick did the school have to make its metal frame in order to keep it from falling apart? Instincts told the teen to flee, that he stood no chance against such a foe. The rational part of his mind agreed as it began to lay out a plan. While everyone else was running for their lives, he could take advantage of the situation to find more points. Turning, Izuku was about to do just that, had it not been for the sound that his ears barely caught. Turning his head, Izuku saw rubble moving on the street, and was that a person underneath? From where he was, he couldn't properly identify who it was, but he could make out the figure of something that was clearly human. A human life that, if someone didn't do something soon, would be snuffed out by the approaching zero pointer. Clenching his fists, Izuku's mind began to race faster than ever before in his life. He had to do something. If All Might was here, he could have solved this easily. The mighty symbol of peace would have appeared in front of that person in an instant, throwing off the rubble before punching the giant tin can. But could Izuku do any of that? He could try flying down there and saving whoever it was. But what would happen if he or she was pinned down with something, or if the rubble was too heavy to move? What if that thing began to fire some sort of projectile that knocked him out as well? What if the zero pointer began to speed up and crushed the two of them before making its way to the rest of the students? Could he take the robot on with divine dividing? So far, the other robots hadn't given his sacred gear too much trouble, but something told him that a machine like that would have a lot more power. If he did use divine dividing, and he couldn't handle it, then that would be it. And even if he could, he doubted that he could destroy that thing with a punch like All Might. Even if he punched it over and over again 1,000,000 times, all he would get would be bloody knuckles and broken hands. So what could he? Just then, the words of Mr. Kendo cut through his panicked thoughts. He remembered how the man had told him about his greatest handicap, himself. For, at that moment, he had allowed his fear to get to him. He had allowed himself to start thinking like the old Izuku Midoriya, who wanted to be so very much like All Might. But he wasn't that person anymore. Now he had his own wings to soar through the air, literally. He had all the tools he needed to succeed. He just needed to figure it out. So, after taking a breath, Izuku flew through the air a bit faster than before towards the head of the giant robot. Once he got close enough, the teen spun in the air and sent his heel right into one of the 8 red eyes of the zero pointer. Upon impact, the lens cracked in a spider web formation. Taking half a second to admire his handiwork, the green-haired teen moved back before beginning to circle around its massive head like an annoying fly. From time to time, he would deliver a kick here and there against the metallic shell, knowing it wouldn't damage it. But the point of this wasn't to damage it. The Divine Divider knew he was taking a risk with this plan, hoping that this machine was programmed to attack the nearest student, or the one who proved to be more threatening. But as long as he got it to focus on him, then the rest of his quickly made plan would, in theory, work. After the third pass around its head, the zero pointer's arm moved as if to swat the teen, something that the teen easily dodged, zipping to the side as he saw the metal limb coming a mile away. A second arm tried capturing him within its clutches, only to be met with the same result. Briefly, Izuku wondered if this was what it would be like to fight someone with a giantification quirk. With the zero pointer's focus now on him, Izuku got it to turn its back on the helpless victim on the ground, as well as the other students taking the test. Slowly it followed the green-haired teen with its glowing wings, who dodged each of its arms with ease, until they were far enough away. Then came the more dangerous part of Izuku's plan. After dodging one last swipe, the Divine Divider landed on the attacking arm, before looking up at its head, while trying, and failing, to smile smugly. Well, it didn't take long for the shadow of a metallic claw to surround the teen. A moment later, it came crashing down, creating a scraping noise that could be heard all over the testing area, all in the effort to eliminate the annoying fly. Only its effort was in vain, as Izuku easily flew out of the area of impact. But the zero-pointer didn't let up as it slid its clawed hand down the arm towards where Izuku was. The Divine Divided waited till the last moment before flying up and over the mass of metal to see the damage the machine had done to itself. That's when he saw it. While the armor plating on the giant was thick and no doubt strong, the force it had used was enough to dent and break off parts of the shell on its arm. Heart pumping faster, the teen spotted several holes that looked big enough for him to enter. And, much like how a virus enters the human body through a cut, Izuku flew into the inner working of the zero-pointer. There, he began to break everything he saw with ease, as it seemed like the people who made this never considered the possibility that someone could get inside. Explosions, both large and small, erupted all around him as the teen made its way deeper inside. It was only when he noticed that everything was powering down that he exited the now still machine. For a moment, he stood there gazing at his work, his accomplishment using his own skills. A laugh escaped his lips as he felt the same pride he had when defeating the one-pointer. A part of him felt like celebrating the fact that he had defeated the foe that so many others had run from. More importantly, he had to save the life of that person. Speaking of which, Izuku turned his head to see that whoever was in that rubble was still there, as there had been no one else around to help. Without really thinking about it, the green-haired teen flew down to where the person laid, finding a pretty girl with short brown hair whose face broke into a smile the moment she saw him land. But as he began to lift the debris off of her, President Mike announced that the exam was over. A couple of hours later, a cleaned-up Izuku Midoriya was walking away from the school with Itsuka Kendo next to him. As they made their way to the train station, the two talked about how they did in their exams, Itsuka explaining how she grabbed robot after robot with her large hands before either crushing them or simply throwing them at other robots. A smile appeared on Izuku's lips as he listened to her words intently, while his eyes watched her face lit up with fiery excitement. A passionate flame whose color he believed matched the color of her hair. He was also ashamed to admit that he hadn't done nearly as well as she had, barely scraping up a dozen or so points before the zero-pointer showed up. Then,
"Oh my god, Izuku! You took down that giant? I didn't even think that was possible when I saw it."
That caused the young Midoriya to chuckle at that, scratching the back of his neck.
"To be honest, I don't think I would be able to do it if it hadn't been for what your father told me back when I started. And I don't think I would have been able to get as far into the exam as I did without the try that both of you gave me."
The boy paused, looking at his orange-haired friend with a slight blush on his face.
"Remember what I asked you back when I first started at your family's dojo? About hating myself? I guess I really did back then. I just thought I had to do something completely different to save people and bring smiles on their faces. That how I was had nothing to offer. But now, because of you and what happened today, I can say that I don't feel like that anymore. Because I was able to save that girl with my own skills and made her smile. All I really needed was the confidence."
Itsuka smiled back at Izuku, a slight blush on her face from the praise.
"Thanks, but I really didn't do all that much. But what are you going to do now?" "I'm going to keep trying to become a hero. UA isn't the only hero school out there, so I'll keep working hard so that I can get into a good one. Then maybe I'll see if I can transfer so that I can join you at UA.
Again, Itsuka smiled at that, while moving a bit closer to the boy who had become a close friend.
Say, we still have some time before our train arrives. How about we take a moment to celebrate? I saw this little coffee shop near the train station this morning that looked nice. So let's go there and give a toast to a job well done.
Smiling, Izuku nodded. A few weeks later, Izuku was in his room holding an envelope from UA, no doubt holding his test scores as well as his rejection letter. A part of him didn't even want to open it, instead wanted to focus on exams for Chiketsu, Gazabutsu, and Isamu. After all, what was the point of reading something when you already knew what it said? Then again, he was curious to know how he did on the written exam, so maybe it was worth opening. Perhaps he could see where he needed to focus his studies for the other hero schools. Taking a deep breath, Izuku opened the envelope to find not a sheet of paper, but a disc that landed on the ground with a clang. Then, as the team blinked in surprise, the device lit up and projected the image of All Might himself.
I am here as a holographic projection!
Izuku stumbled back at the declaration of the #1 hero dressed in a pin-stripped suit. What was going on? Why was All Might doing this?
Now, Izuku Midoriya, I shall be giving you your test results. For the written portion of the exam, you scored fairly high.
Izuku watched as All Might stepped to the side as a screen appeared next to him. On it was a picture of the broccoli hair teen along with his name. Below that were his scores on various subjects of the exam. As he looked over them, a smile appeared on his face. All Might was right. He had scored high. Sure, none of them were perfect, but they were very close. And at the bottom of the exam, it showed that he had placed 4th in this portion of the exam.
You should be very proud of this, young man. But we both know that it's the practical that you are really interested in. For that, you scored a total of 8 villain points.
A soft sigh escaped Midoriya's lips, his shoulders slumping slightly. Only 8 points. That was slightly worse than what he had thought he had gotten. Figuring that there was no real point in hearing anything else, the team got up to turn off the projector, only to stop when he heard what the #1 hero said next.
Frankly, it's not a very impressive score when compared to the other examinees. But fear not, for there were other factors involved with this exam. Behold, as I show you a video.
Izuku froze as All Might pulled out a remote from nowhere, the image of his test scores being replaced with something else. It took the teen a moment before he recognized the scene. It was him at Tsunotori right before the exam, when he had helped the American girl find the way to the school. But what did that have to do with anything?
The truth, young Midoriya, is that the exam started before you even reached the main gates of the school. Cameras were placed throughout the city, watching to see what our new potential students were like when they thought we weren't watching. What you did for this girl, who was a stranger in our country, showed us just who you really were. A person who is willing to help others, even if it did not benefit you in any meaningful way, even if it might hurt you in the long run. That is true heroism. And for this small act, you were rewarded 8 rescue points by our principal.
The screen then changed again, showing Izuku leading the 0-pointer robot away from the injured girl.
You then stood up to a foe much greater than yourself during the actual exam. Even though you were low on points, you still chose to help another. The act of self-sacrifice was witnessed by a panel of judges who decided to award you with a maximum of 60 rescue points, thus giving you a grand total of 68 rescue points. That, combined with the 8 villain points, gives you a total score of 76 points for the practical.
Tears filled Midoriya's eyes as he felt his knees looking up at the scoreboard that now appeared before him. There he was, scoring right below Bakugo.
Welcome, young Midoriya, to your Hero Academia!
Thank you all for indulging yourselves in all of this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it.
Now, there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, I'd like to thank our sponsors. Secondly, I'd like to thank all of our YouTube members. Thirdly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We the Celestials has you covered. Our We the Celestials, My Hero Academia, and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check out if you're interested. Fourthly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in today's excellent content production. Their details can be found in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We the Celestials, I'd like to extend out an invitation to join the team. The only caveat is that we only accept members from 16 years old to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it for today's video. So, thank you all for watching, and have a great day.